God here, and welcome to the Gods of Odds, hosted by two of my favorites, Brad Hoyseth and Dave Daba.
Welcome to the Gods of Odds. It is week number 8 of your National Football League season. That is Brad Hoyseth over there in beautiful Southern California. I'm Dave Daba up in Northern California, and I know that both Brad and I are super excited about this week's picks. I would also like to point out, Brad, last week, I believe we both went 6 for 10 in our National Football League picks against the spread. A fine week for you, Mr. Hoyseth.
A good year. We're coming to you on a rare Thursday night edition while the Thursday night game's going on. You see, I got some of my Halloween gear in my house going on there. It's Halloween week. Hopefully the ghouls won't come out and get us this week, Dave. But it's been a good year. I'm over 500 by quite a few games now, and I noticed that, Dave, you got yourself up to 500 this week, and so we've done well, and who would have thunk it, right?
Well, and also, Brad, when you consider my first 2 weeks, where I think I got 3 out of 20 right, so it's been a good comeback. I do want to let the public know: don't be fooled by Brad's Halloween decorations behind him. I think that is up all year long. It's a slightly different position because we are recording at night tonight than he normally is in.
Well, we're a Halloween-friendly family here, Dave, so it wouldn't be surprising if you saw them out all year round. Hey, look, a couple of issues we needed to talk about this week. You and I had kind of gone over some things, I think, a little Monday or something like that. And what's up with the Kansas City Chiefs, Dave? I mean, remember a couple weeks into the season, they weren't playing great, but they were okay. They were 500. And we thought, okay, they're going to turn it around because they're one of the better teams in football, right? And now, are they one of the worst teams in football right now? I mean, seriously, this team looks absolutely terrible, and their defense can't stop anybody. And Patrick Mahomes suddenly looks human. He's taken a ton of hits. He got whacked pretty good there in the fourth quarter, had to be taken out last week. There was one pass along the sidelines where he made a pass to his tight end, Travis Kelce. That was like 7 or 8 yards over Kelce's head. And you can just see the look on Kelce's face like, what's up with this guy, man? He's not himself anymore.
Yeah. One thing you can't do in the National Football League, and the Kansas City Chiefs are proving this so far this year, is you can't make that many wholesale changes at the offensive line that they made. I know they spent a lot of money on free agency to bring in a bunch of new linemen across that offensive line. And quite frankly, Patrick Mahomes is not getting the kind of time he used to get. I mean, he used to sit back in the pocket, Brad, trying to decide if he was going to order dinner from Uber Eats or from DoorDash. And now he's literally running for his life. It's as if he's behind the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line, which is also absolutely horrific. Same can be said about the Chicago Bears offensive line. Look, they're just this is the year. This is the first year in a long time where there have just been so many teams with just really bad offensive lines. I think I keep going down this thing real quick with the Kansas City Chiefs, where I'm like, okay, we started out thinking, okay, they're going to make another Super Bowl run, as you pointed out, and then we're like, well, they're going to turn things around. And now we're sitting here with the Kansas City Chiefs, and we're thinking, well, they're 3-4, and there's just no way they're not going to make the playoffs. And it is literally, I think we are 3 weeks away from pronouncing the Kansas City Chiefs dead for the year. I really, luckily for them, they've got an easy game this week, which should be an easy game. But other than that, it is going to be an interesting couple weeks for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, you talked about the Bears, and man, I watched that game last week, and 5 turnovers for Justin Fields, and we hit on this quite a few times already over the first couple of weeks of the season, where the argument was, should he be playing or should he not be playing? Dave, he doesn't look like an NFL quarterback to me. I mean, he goes to the sidelines after turning the ball over. He's got his baseball cap on. And he's just sitting there on the bench. He's not looking at the notepad. He's not looking at pictures. Tom Brady's been in the league for about 20 years now, and he still goes to the sidelines, and on every single occasion, he's studying. And I don't know what Justin Fields is doing. I don't know who's leading him. I don't know who his coach is. But, you just got done turning over the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time. At some point, you got to go to the sidelines. You got to start studying, because this is not Ohio State, and the guys on the other side of the line are not Rutgers. I mean, you're in the NFL now, and I don't know. He doesn't look ready to play in this league, Dave.
Thank you for for bringing up Rutgers football on today's show. Yeah. I'm a big proponent of, let the young guys play. But I think what you're seeing, and you see it on the offensive line, and Brad and I look for this stuff. We don't just look at what happens on the field. We also, pay attention to what's happening when they're on the sidelines. And that is, just quite simply bad leadership, bad coaching by the Chicago Bears. I mean, that's all you can say about that. The fact that there isn't an offensive coordinator or quarterback's coach down on the field with him at this point, just shoving the Microsoft Surface in his face, saying, take a look at this. The fact that that's not happening, I mean, how is he going to learn in game? How is he going to learn defenses? I mean, I heard an announcer over the weekend make a really solid point, and it was just super simple, and I think we can leave it at this. He said, and I quote, "Justin Fields does not know how to read defenses." And like, you could tell by what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did to him. He just is lost out there.
Yeah, he just completely looks overwhelmed. All right, well, let's jump into it. We might as well just go right into that Chiefs game, because that was one of the games I picked this week. The Giants are at the Chiefs, and I know that I just got done saying that the Chiefs right now look like one of the worst teams in football. Clearly, their defense is one of the worst. Fortunately for them, they play a team that has very little offense at all this week in the Giants. The Chiefs are at home. They're 9.5-point favorites, which, with as bad as they're playing, seems like an extremely large number. But I think it's really gut check time in Kansas City now. And this is not, I still believe the Chiefs have enough talent, and Patrick Mahomes is a talented enough kid. We've just seen him play too many great games and make too many great things happen to have this thing go on a whole lot longer. I just think that the Giants are a great tonic. They're a great dose of medicine when things are going bad for your defense. And at some point, they're going to wake up and realize that it's gut check time. And if they lose this game, Dave, the season is really on the rocks. And so I'm going to take the Chiefs. I'm going to give the 9.5. I think they bounce back this week. I think they finally show up and they win. They win big over the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've got Dallas the week after, and they've got a couple other decent football teams coming up after the Giants. What I don't like is the that extra half point here, but I can't in good conscience at this point of the season, with a spiraling poor Kansas City Chiefs team sort of out of control at 3-4, to get on in any way a Daniel Jones bandwagon here at this point. I mean, I guess if the Giants are going to win this game, Daniel Jones will throw the ball less than 15 times. It will be run pass option, which is really more of a run, pretend to pass and run. Daniel Jones, that's the way the Giants could actually upset the Kansas City Chiefs in this game. Look, I don't think that the Giants have the secondary to implement two safeties in the back the way other defenses have attacked Kansas City over the last couple weeks. That being said, I think we are looking at what is going to be an easy Kansas City Chiefs victory.
I'm looking at these games you and I picked, Dave, and I think we only picked one game different this week, and I'm just kind of waiting to see if Daba's got a rabbit up his sleeve that he's going to all of a sudden change something last minute. So where are you going next?
Well, definitely. There's after seeing all of our picks, I will have a rabbit. But let's start with the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cleveland Browns. There has been this strange sort of thing happening with Baker Mayfield, who is suddenly fearful that he might not have a contract in Cleveland next year. Like, we could be at the end finally of these Baker Mayfield progressive insurance commercials inside that Cleveland Browns stadium. Not bad commercials, by the way. I really did like the Baker Mayfield Halloween progressive commercial.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely fantastic. But look, Mike Tomlin's been under fire all week because his name was put into the hopper by the good folks over at USC, who just decided to shoot for the stars. They said, who's the best coach we could get in the National Football League that we know is going to say no to us? And that is Mike Tomlin, what coach literally will leave a Pittsburgh Steelers organization? Hands down, the best National Football League organization to work for in the past 50 years. 3 coaches have been the head coaches in the Pittsburgh Steelers history. I am just saying there is not a chance in hell Mike Tomlin's going to walk away. Look, I think the Steelers are going to come out mad. I believe Ben Roethlisberger is back on track to some extent. Najee Harris is looking better. The team is going to get, it's coming off of a bye, so they're going to be a little bit more healthy than they were going into it. Just a really good coaching staff. A lot of people are changing to the guard. Even with Case Keenum starting at quarterback, not much of a big drop off, and there's still a lot of people out there saying that the Cleveland Browns, who are giving up 3.5 points in this game, are still going to somehow cover. And I'm just not seeing it. I'm going with the Steelers.
I'm in total agreement with you here. It would be one thing if Cleveland was healthy, but they're clearly not. And the top 2 running backs are still not there as far as I know. And, they do have a great offensive line. But if there's one thing Pittsburgh can do is play a little bit of defense. I see this being a really low-scoring affair. I see it a field goal game. I didn't like the extra half a point. I think somebody wins this in the final seconds, and they know each other very well. But without all those weapons, without your starting quarterback, and I know Case Keenum he's really a pretty decent fill. He might be one of the better backups in the league. But they just don't have a lot of weapons on the outside, or at least they don't appear to use them very often. And I just think Pittsburgh's kind of up against it. They need a win bigger than Cleveland does. I don't know who wins the game, but I think 3.5 is a little bit rich for my blood. I'm going to take the Steelers as well.
Yeah, I know who wins the game, Brad. The Steelers are gonna win the game. I really think that's what's actually going to happen here. What do you got next for us, Mr. Hoysa?
Well, I got all kinds of text messages from Dave all weekend long. Are the Bengals for real? Are they really that good? Dave, they're pretty good.
Painful.
They're a good football team. And,
gotta give Zach Taylor.
I don't think anybody thought that things would turn around that quickly with Joe Burrow But you add Jamar Chase into the mix. You know how I feel about Joe Mixon. I think he's a heck of a player. But the real big difference there is that defense is playing really good football. I mean, they stifled Baltimore last week, and they won that game outright. I mean, it wasn't that close. And they're at the Jets, who the Jets are just a mess, and they got a quarterback who has zero confidence. He has very little talent around him, and they just look lost out there, the Jets, and the Bengals are playing well. And so I think when a team's hot, you got to ride that horse. And even though they're given 10.5, which is quite a bit, I firmly believe in the Bengals right now. I think that's the best team in that division right now. Which Ravens. I probably would have said that about the Ravens last week if it was a week ago, but. Watching them play, they look like they're playing with a ton of confidence. They look like they're having a lot of fun. And that's a fun, exciting young football team to watch. I'm going to take the Bengals. I'm going to give the 10.5.
Yeah, I love watching Joe Burrow. I love winners, Brad. They're so much better than Sam Darnold losers.
You just had to bring him up, didn't you?
I did.
You couldn't let it go.
Oh, like how could you let it go? So this is one of those things where I will give it to the entire Cincinnati Bengals organization. Look, I don't know how things are going to turn out at the end of the year. But you've got to give it to the organization, the ownership group, for actually allowing Zach Taylor to have a third year as a head coach in the National Football League. That we hear this all the time, and we see it all the time. Coaches need 3 years to implement their strategy and their programs, and Zach Taylor has really. I mean, and it doesn't hurt to have an improving offensive line, and to some extent an improved Joe Burrow, who's doing a much better job reading defenses and getting himself out of trouble versus last year. So, I don't know how anybody in good conscience can take the Jets, in this game. It is a lot of points. It is on the road. You never know what's going to happen with weather, but. All things are indicating that this is going to be a Bengals victory by, 11 points plus.
Yeah, I mean, they're just a fun and exciting football team to watch right now. And Jamar Chase, I mean, LSU, I think I said it earlier in the year, that's pretty much wide receiver U right now. I mean, you look at all of these great wide receivers that have come out of LSU and just made a quick splash. I mean, it's not like it took them a year. It used to be that wide receivers came in and it took them a year to kind of find their footing. You got guys coming into the league now, whether it's Jefferson of the Vikings or Jamar Chase this year. And every time I turn around, it's an LSU guy. So,
yeah.
Good on Cincinnati. They went after some big names from big schools, and they appear to have hit on both of them.
Yep. Love these wide receivers coming into the National Football League, NFL ready. And one of the coolest things about it is the route running. We talk about Jefferson. We can talk about this rookie wide receiver in Cincinnati. And when you watch the route running, that's the difference, Brad. I mean, you don't have to be the fastest person on the field. Just really quality route running. It's good coaching at LSU in that arena. All right. So moving on, Mr. Hoysaf, the Tennessee Titans are favored by 1.5 on the road against the Indianapolis Colts. And I just have so much to say, but I'm not going to say too much. I sat and suffered through that 49er game last weekend. I'm here in Northern California, where we had a river of rain above us. That's what they were calling it. It was a weather river that was dropping rain for 48 hours straight. Some people thought they saw an arc developing. We had so much rain. Literally, it couldn't drive the car. That's how much rain we had up here. So, the weather was definitely a factor there. What I've concluded at this point is Kyle Shanahan, the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. And Brad, I think this is something we will agree on here. He had the one good year where he got somehow guided the team to the Super Bowl. And what else has he done? Like nothing.
No, I agree. I've thought many of his personnel decisions in the past few years have been very suspect. Anywhere from Jimmy G to the running back situation and playing guys that I didn't think were as good as other guys on the team. And now they've been besieged by injuries for 2 years, and that doesn't help. But when you watch these games, there seems to be a lot of very odd decisions from the coaching staff, whether it be play calls or defensive schemes. And I'm with you. Now, are you picking a game? Or you just want to talk about the 49ers all day long? You're going to pick a winner in this thing.
I just had to complain because this leads into this week's game. The Colts, at home against the Tennessee Titans. I do not fully believe in this Indianapolis Colts team yet. It seems as if Frank Reich and Carson Wentz have found some middle ground in how they're running the offense. Carson seems to not be taking as many risks as he was taking before. So there's this sinking feeling that this Colts team is going to get better and better and better as the season goes on. I just think, as I said last week, you're running into the sneaky, scary, maybe the best team in the National Football League today in the Tennessee Titans, at least as we know, the best running back in the National Football League. And when you have somebody as dominant as Derrick Henry, even though the game's on the road, that doesn't matter to me. It's indoors. I think this is going to be a Titans victory, and I'm going with the Titans in this one.
Yeah, this is a tight game, I think. And the Colts at home, they're dogs at home, which I find kind of odd. But and both teams are playing well. The Titans looked pretty poor the first couple of weeks of the season, but they seem to have found something. I think Vrabel finally figured out that he's got three of the biggest stars in the game with, A.J. Brown and Julio Jones and Derrick Henry. And he's finally kind of getting them all involved in the offense. And so, but the biggest change for Tennessee, I remember last year, I was all over the Titans defense. I mean, they were just terrible last year, but they found something. They found a pass rush. And we all know that, the quarterback in Indianapolis is not great at handling a pass rush. And so that's why I like the Titans in this one. It's a 1.5 point game. I mean, it's probably not a game I would ordinarily bet on my own, but I'm going to take the Titans as well.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. It is. I think Vegas has this thing right. It is going to be a close game, and I am trying to give Frank Reich and the Colts team the respect that they sort of deserve. Like, what are they, Brad? 3-4. As much respect as I can give a 3-4 football team. At this point, but they are getting better. And this is I'm with you. I don't know that I'd throw my own money down on it, but definitely going with the Titans as well.
I'm going to go to two of Dave's favorite teams next. The Eagles at the Lions, right? I mean, is there any teams that are probably less exciting to watch than those two football teams? But the Eagles, I found it kind of odd. The Eagles are 3.5 point favorites on the road at Detroit. Now, Detroit's 0-7, but you and I both kind of talked about this, I think, on Sunday or Monday or something, that is unquestionably the best 0-7 team in NFL history. The Lions are not a bad football team. They just cannot win a close game. And but they play hard, like you've said all year long with Dan Campbell as the coach. They do play hard. They gave the Rams a run for their money last week, and again they came up short. And so I just can't believe the Eagles. I've watched the Eagles, and they don't impress me in the least. And so, I'm going to take the Lions. 3.5 I thought was a little bit much. It feels like a last-second field goal game. Somebody wins by 1 or 2. So I'm going to say that the Lions, again, keep it close. They've kept everything else close. Why wouldn't they keep it close with a lousy Philadelphia Eagles football team? So I'm going to take the Lions in the 3.5.
Yeah. How do I put this? I hate that we're doing this game. Let me start there, because you're right. Dan Campbell, by far the best 0-7 coach in the history of the National Football League. I've got to believe he's going to find a way eventually to turn things around there. But I saw the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles give a press conference earlier today. Nick Sirianni. Just fantastic, Brad. He started talking about gardening during his press conference. I don't know if you saw this, but he was talking about like how there's soil, and how you can start to see that the leaves are starting to come up. You got to check out this interview if you haven't seen it. And there's leaves that are starting to come up out of the ground, and the water, and there's roots, and the team he's happy with his team at 2-5, or whatever, wherever they're at. He's impressed with it. And it was just a crazy, an absolutely crazy press conference. And I like that from a head coach, going into horticulture with his metaphors. Look, nobody knows who's going to win this game, so I'm going to pick against you just for the sake of it. I'm gonna go ahead and go with the Eagles. I like Jalen Hurts enough to say that I think they can go in and handle this Detroit Lions defense. Just gonna roll the dice on this one. Honestly, that's all I'm doing here. Just flat out rolling the dice.
So Dave does have a rabbit up his sleeve there as he goes with the Eagles he's going to give the 3.5 points with that lousy ass offense. I can't believe it, but you got ground to make up. You're still 3 games back of me for the season, so I get it. I understand. I mean, you might as well bet against the Lions to try to make up a game, right?
Yeah, I mean that is also part of the kick Dan Campbell while he's down. That's really what it comes down to. All right, Brad. Moving on to my next game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the New Orleans Saints. I mean, Tampa is got to falter at some point. Tampa's favored by 5, I believe, in this game. I just don't think this is the game they falter in. Except for the fact that, Sean Payton's, on occasion, is good at stopping teams that they're not supposed to stop. But like, do you believe in Jameis Winston to take down Tom? No. Like something catastrophic has to happen in this one. I'm surprised the line's only 5. I'm going with Tampa.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, it's Jameis Winston that we're talking about here. And, he's the ultimate Heckle and Jekyll quarterback. He looks good for 5 minutes. He looks terrible for 10. And you just never know what you're going to get from him. And this is not the same New Orleans Saints teams that we have seen when Drew Brees was leading them, on any given Sunday. And the Bucs, I think they're playing as well as anybody in the league right now. Their offense is virtually unstoppable. It's just a matter of time before they find a little bit of defense. And it's just a matter of time before Jameis Winston throws one to the other team. So I'm with you. Even though it's 5, which I think is a little bit much, I'm going to take the Bucs. I'm going to give that 5 points.
I think Sean Payton would give anything for just a couple weeks of a tired Drew Brees arm. At this point, it's got to be killing him because he can't do what he used to be able to do. One quick thing about Tom Brady, he showed up on the Manning Monday Night Football broadcast and was absolutely fantastic. I've said it before. If you haven't checked out ESPN2's version of Monday Night Football between the Manning brothers, they get some decent interviews. And in fact, they had Drew Brees on for the fourth quarter as well. But I thought Tom Brady stole the show. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and another thing that's hurt the Saints recently is the injury to Taysom Hill not playing. I think he had a concussion or something. So he's one of those gadget guys that they've used a lot around the end zone. So it really does come down to now Jameis Winston. There's no backup. There's no alternative plan. It's all on Jameis. So anyways, I'm going to go next into Denver, where the Washington football team travels to the Broncos, who, both of these teams, I just don't know what to make of either one of these teams. At times they can look great, and at times they just look terrible. But the Broncos, after a tremendous start, have kind of really cooled down a little bit, and they're desperate for a win. They're playing at home. I was a little surprised to see this line only be at 2.5. I think, if it was earlier in the year, it might have been as much as 5 or 6. Taylor Heineke's he's fun to watch. I think he kind of reminds me of Brett Favre a little bit, just the way he plays and wears the same number, and he kind of runs around and flies around like Favre, but he doesn't seem to get wins like Favre, and so. I just don't think Washington's a very good team right now. The defense really hasn't shown up this year like they thought it was going to. The Broncos need a win desperately. They're 2.5-point favorites, but I feel like they're going to win this game by a touchdown. I'm going to take the Broncos.
Yeah. So I so wanted to jump on the Brett Favre, Heineke bandwagon, for this game, but it's just, I just can't. I'm going to go with the Broncos as for a lot of the same reasons you're picking the Broncos in this game. Some key injuries on the Broncos defensive side of the ball against Cleveland sort of set them back a little bit, but I just Mile High, seeing the Washington football team go there. It's sort of hard for me to see Denver, finding a way to. If they squander this game, their season's over. So this is Washington's season's already over. This is they're going to have to win to have any hope of moving forward, and this is a must-win game, I think, for Vic Fangio as a head coach of that team as well. I think the Broncos are going to come home with this one.
Yeah, if you're the Broncos now, that's a really good division.
Yeah,
and you're looking up at the Chargers, and the Raiders have played better football this year. You've still got the Chiefs there. And if you're the Broncos, you got to keep pace. You got to get a win. So I think they're at home. I think that's a big advantage. That really was the difference for me. The Broncos are playing at home, but it's only 2.5. So I think it's a field goal game, maybe a little bit more. And I think they're just kind of up against the wall. They need a victory bad.
Yeah. If you just looked at the last 10 quarters of Mac Jones's National Football League career, you would think there's no way you're picking against Mac Jones and the New England Patriots at the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers favored by 5.5 in this one. But this will be the first real test that Mac Jones has had in 10 quarters of football. When I sort of looked at this game, Brad, the Chargers, they're coming off of a bye, they're getting healthy. What happened in Baltimore 2 weeks ago is behind them. It's a young coach, but they're at home, coming off of a young coach's first bye week. He's a smart guy. I see the Chargers getting back on track here, and I'm not playing off of this Bill Belichick mystique anymore. I'm done with it. I've lost too many games this year on Bill Belichick, one way or the other. I'm ignoring the mystique of Bill Belichick for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I just think that the Patriots, they don't have a lot of talent, and I don't know how you match point for point with the Chargers, who are one of the better offenses in the league, and they're playing with a lot of confidence. And they're at home. 5.5 is a little rich when you take into effect that Bill Belichick is coaching on the other side of the field. But at the same time, there's just too many weapons there. There's so many guys with the Chargers, and you mentioned the bye week. That was a team that was a little bit dinged up a few weeks back. They got the running back now. It probably gave an extra week for Keenan Allen to get healthy. He hasn't quite been right all season long. And I just feel like the Patriots, at some point, they're going to get worn out. You can only give the same old rah-rah speech in the locker room for so many weeks in a row. And if you just don't have talent, you don't got a lot of talent. And the Patriots don't have a lot of talent. I'm going to take the Chargers. I'm going to give that 5.5.
Yep. I'm with you, and I think that the talent thing is key here. Can you name 3 of the wide receivers on the Patriots team right now? I mean,
I don't know that I can name one. Well, Kendrick Bourne, wasn't he a former Niner?
Wasn't he also an extra in the Jason Bourne movies? Look, and that's what I'm saying. Like, early in the season, I was like, oh, well, Bill Belichick's going to turn things around. It was playing off way too much of the Bill Belichick mystique. And we just, we need to move off of that and actually really, realize what you pointed out, Brad, is that this Patriots team, even when it's well coached, just quite frankly, just doesn't have enough talent on it. And this should be a game that a healthy Los Angeles Charger team, in the middle of the season, at home in beautiful, Brad, Southern California, absolutely beautiful Southern California, should be able to take them down.
All right, my final game is the Rams at your favorite team, the Texans, and. This is one of those games, Dave, I talk about it every couple of weeks. Really good team, really bad team. No reason to overthink this deal. The Rams are really good. Their defense, played when they had to play last week. You just knew that Jared Goff was going to throw a pick at the end, if not 2, and he did throw 2. But this Texan team right now, they're almost unwatchable, and they've almost bailed on the season. I think I heard reports. Did they trade Mark Ingram this week, Dave? Did you hear that?
Yeah, he's being traded to back to the Saints.
Yeah, I mean, to me that's the first nail in the coffin. When you see one of your better offensive weapons getting traded, guys in the locker room start going, well, who's next? And it's a fiasco right now. That's a terrible football team. I watch them and I just go, they don't look like they have any idea what's going on. And you know what? The Rams they got to keep the pedal on the gas, because you got the Cardinals and you got that decent Seahawk team, and you got a loaded division. So you got to keep winning. And so it's 14 points. That's a lot. I got burned last week taking the Rams against the Lions. hey, props to Dan Campbell. He did a nice job. But I'm going to take the Rams this week. I say they steamroll Houston, yeah, and they win by more than 14.
I love how Dan Campbell just pops up in all of our conversations somehow. Fly, Eagles, fly. Last week, at one point during the early parts of that Houston Texans Arizona Cardinal game, the Texans were winning. They were up 5-0, and I was on the verge of texting Brad Hoysef, and then my DirecTV dish went down, and because of the rain, and so by the time I was able to switch to being able to view it on my laptop, Arizona, I think, was up by like 2 touchdowns at that point. So you never got that text, Brad, and you're not going to get that text this week. I'm with you. I'm going with the Rams. I, by the way, am not sold on Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford yet, and I just I think Stafford's. I like Matthew Stafford, but I don't love Matthew Stafford. And I think a lot of people and there's a difference. And I think a lot of people out there are myopic in their perception of where Matthew Stafford is at this point of his career. This is not young Matthew Stafford. I keep telling people that. And it's you just watch, Brad. As we get into near the playoffs or in the playoffs, the real Matthew Stafford will stand up and have to sit down, because there's no way this Rams team is heading back to the Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford as their quarterback.
Yeah, and I'm not sure it's Stafford. I'm not sure it's not McVay. I mean, I sent you the text over the weekend and said, I don't know, man. I just don't know if this McVay is the guy that we all thought he was. But he's got a talented roster. I feel the same way about the Cardinals. You keep pressing me on the Cardinals. Ask me if the Cardinals are the best team in football. And I'm like, I don't know. There's just something there that bothers me a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I hear where you're coming from. I've never been a huge Stafford guy. I think he's better than Jared Goff. And I think that's what they've got. They've got a better quarterback than Jared Goff. And maybe that's enough to get them to the finish line. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I had to be so careful because I might run into a Goff at the dog park up here in Northern. But I'm with you, Brad. I like he's definitely way better than Jared Goff.
All right, take us home.
I will. With the last game of our top 10 games worth actually spending some money on for week 10 or week number 8 of your National Football League season. I have the game of the week as far as I'm concerned. The Dallas Cowboys at the Minnesota Vikings on Halloween, Brad. Halloween Eve, 5:30 p.m. is the kickoff. Dallas is favored by 2.5 points in this game. I am betting on a couple things here. One, I'm betting on the Vikings are just a better football team than a lot of people are giving them credit for, and that the Dallas Cowboy team's not as good as we think they are, and that will somehow even out in this game. That's one thing. The second thing I'm betting on is something, and I don't wish this. I want to see Dak Prescott play in this game. We're recording on Thursday night. I'm getting a lot of wishy-washy things out of Dallas. A lot of wishy-washy news coming out of Dallas right now. And since we're picking on Thursday night, I don't know for sure. I suspect that maybe Dak Prescott's not going to play in this game. That is also affecting the sort of crazy decision I'm going to make, which is to pick the Minnesota Vikings. And I will take the 2.5 points you're handing me. Oh, Cowboy fan.
Well, Dak Prescott does have a calf, and I wouldn't pick this game until I knew if Dak Prescott was playing or not. But for the sake of argument,
yeah,
I have to pick this game. And I know you took the Vikings, and we both grew up in Minnesota, and we've all been down this road many times before. Vikings fans get amnesia, and it sets in really quickly. And sometimes all it takes is a bye week to forget how bad their defense is.
yeah.
And so I'm preparing as if Dak Prescott's going to play in that game. If he does, his ability to run is not a big thing for him. They have two very good running backs. They're interchangeable parts. They're both very good. He's got a lot of weapons outside and a vastly improved defense.
Yeah.
And so I just think the Dallas Cowboys are a better football team than the Minnesota Vikings right now. And 2.5 points, I feel like it's a field goal to 5-6 point game. Vikings are the ultimate heartbreak team. Just when you think they've got something and that they're improving, they remind you that they haven't had a good kicker in 20 years. You know they're going to miss a field goal in this game, Dave. They always do when it matters. And right? I mean, come on. You and I have been down this road so many times that I can't take the Vikings. It's just, to me, it's the setup week. It's the one that Vikings fans now have been waiting an extra week for this game. They're so excited. And all of a sudden, the second half's going to come, and they're going to be like, yeah. Really? This is what I'm taking the Cowboys. I'll give you the 2.5, Dave.
Yeah, at least we'll have lots of candy for the kids that didn't show up at the front door to eat. Brad's sort of the opposite. He's the pessimistic Minnesota Viking fan. Some might actually
I'm the older Viking
realistic
fan.
Minnesota Viking fan.
I'm the more grizzled Viking fan.
More grizzled, yes, definitely. And I'm getting there. I've gotten a lot more grizzled in my opinion. I mean, like I refused to even pick the Viking game 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, I think it was, and I think our super fan commented on how could we not actually. Have the Viking game on the top 10 games, and I couldn't do it. I am worried about the kicking. I'm more worried about our inability to cover 3 really good wide receivers, and that's the big concern. Not to mention the Dallas Cowboy running game, but look, Kirk Cousins and the Viking offense is certainly capable of winning the time possession game, which will be a big one of the big plays or one of the big strategies at play here. So they're going to run the ball. More Kirk Cousins rollouts to the left, more Kirk Cousins rollouts to the right. They're going to try to win the time of possession. That is a strategy that this Viking team is going to attempt to implement. And if they can do that, I think they can keep it close enough to at least cover. But there is some heart in this pick for sure. I must admit. All right, Mr. Hoisev, any last words before we get out of here?
Oh boy. Just when you think you got a best team in the league, they seem to die the next weekend. I've kind of gotten out of the guessing game of who the best team in football is right now. I still think the Buffalo Bills are the best team in football, Dave. I know they lost to the Titans. I think they're the most complete team. I thought they got a few calls that kind of went the other way. A couple of mistakes here and there, but that's a solid football team. I still think they're the best team in the league.
I swear, inside Roger Goodell's office, he must have, like one of those motivation. How people have those motivational signs in their offices?
No,
they do. And I'm sure, to enter Roger Goodell's office, you have to. Tap on the parody sign because that's what I think we have here in the National Football League. a whole lot of parity going on. Even with even with sort of the middle tier football teams that are sitting at 3 and 4, just hovering at in and around 500. There's still half of those teams can win on any Sunday, and there's really only a small handful of teams that I think anybody should be fearful of at all. And the Cowboys are to me the closest team that if they really put it all together, could be the team that could be to be feared. Them and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. When you talk about the AFC, I cannot, as much as I'd like to, argue with you today about the Buffalo Bills. I think they're the hands down right now the best team in the AFC, with the Titans not far behind.
Yeah, the Titans are the one team that creates that kind of strange, weird matchup problem that on any given Sunday can just embarrass you. And that's exactly what happened last week when they embarrassed the team they played. And so, Tennessee is an odd matchup team just because Derrick Henry is so odd to try to defend. And then when you do defend him, you got, A.J. Brown, and you've got Julio Jones, and for all his warts, Ryan Tannehill's a pretty athletic quarterback. He can run. And so when they're playing defense like they've played in recent weeks, Tennessee's a very dangerous football team. But, at the beginning of the year, I took the Niners and the Chiefs, I think, to go to the Super Bowl. And I at this point, don't think either of those teams has any chance of going to the Super Bowl right now. I would say it's probably the Bills and the Buccaneers. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Chargers. Hey, how about your Chargers, though?
Yeah. Well, and wouldn't it be great? I mean, Chargers, Tampa in the Super Bowl. From a
couple weeks from now, we'll probably be talking about the Colts and the Saints or something. Who knows? The league changes so quickly.
I guarantee I'll bet you my house and car we will not be talking about that. That Mark Ingram trade, not that impactful. All right. I want to thank everybody out there for tuning in to this week's episode of Gods of Odds. That is Brad Hoysef over there in beautiful nighttime Southern California. I'm Dave DeBaugh up in Northern California, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing week.
God here, and thanks for tuning in to the Gods of Odds. For more semi-witty sports commentary, please make sure you check out mighty.rip. Okay, go ahead and kill the music now.